Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources and really unpack them, find those fascinating nuggets of knowledge. Today we're plunging into just one source, but it's a really compelling one. Johnny Depp, the ebb and flow of fortune. Our mission here is to explore, the incredible highs and the, dramatic lows of a major Hollywood star's money situation. We want to understand how someone can make so much wealth, but also why it can seem to just vanish and what specific things affect a public figure's finances. You probably think you know the story, but I think you should prepare for some genuinely surprising details here, stuff that goes way beyond the headlines.
Yeah, and what's really illuminating, I think, about this deep dive is how it lets us look past all that noise, past the headlines, and really understand the unpredictable nature of fortune,
right?
Especially when you're living life under that kind of intense public spotlight. We're basically tracing a financial roller coaster. It's a pretty stark reminder that even, huge wealth isn't set in stone. It can swing wildly.
Okay, absolutely. So, with that setup, let's get into the start of this really incredible financial story. Johnny Depp, at one point, he was definitely considered one of Hollywood's highest paid actors. We're talking peak earnings, reportedly, upwards of $650 million.
Yeah.
And that's over just 13 years.
Yeah.
When you hear a number like that, it's honestly kind of mind-boggling. So how did he actually build up that kind of fortune?
Well, primarily it came from those huge, iconic roles he played, especially the ones that turned into massive global franchises. And what's really interesting there isn't just the sheer amount of money, but how it shows this unique part of Hollywood wealth building. It's like the exponential returns you get when you basically own a piece of a global brand.
Right.
So the Pirates of the Caribbean films alone, the source says he reportedly made around $300 million from those.
$300 million?
Yeah. And his salary for just one of them, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was apparently $90 million.
$90 million for one movie. Wow.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the pirate stuff. His work with Tim Burton, those collaborations, they also brought in huge paydays. Like there was a reported $55 million back-end deal for Alice in Wonderland.
Ah, okay, so back-end deals too, meaning he got a slice of the profits, not just his upfront pay.
Precisely. A significant chunk of the film's success, financially speaking.
So it wasn't just the film salary itself, it was these other ways money was coming in. What else? What else added to that huge pile?
Well, beyond those massive salaries and the back-end deals, there were other, pretty significant income streams. He had some really lucrative endorsement deals. The most famous one probably is that long-running partnership with Dior for their Sauvage fragrance.
Right. That one seems to have stuck around through everything.
It's been remarkably resilient, yeah.
Sure.
And then, of course, you've got royalties coming in from his huge back catalog of films, plus whatever ventures came through his production company, Hollywood Vampires.
Okay, so multiple streams, big hits, back-end deals. It paints a picture of massive income. But then, like you said, the tide turned dramatically. His net worth just plummeted. From that $650 million peak down to an estimate of around $150 million as of mid-2025.
Yeah.
That's an incredible drop. What actually drove that, according to the source? What happened?
This is where it gets really interesting, and it kind of highlights how the sheer scale of wealth plus that intense public scrutiny can just amplify everything. Personal choices, outside factors, lavish habits become these financial black holes. Legal fights turn into career-altering events.
Yeah.
So the source basically points to a combination of three main things: truly extravagant spending, allegations of financial mismanagement, and then those very public, very expensive legal battles.
Okay, let's unpack the spending first, because the reports that came out from his former managers, TMG, the management group, they allege some, staggering number.
Oh, indeed. TMG claimed his monthly spending was around $2 million.
$2 million. A month.
A month. And when you break it down, it includes some incredibly specific high-cost things, like $30,000 a month just on wine.
$30,000 on wine.
$200,000 monthly on private jets. $150,000 a month for a full-time staff of apparently 40 people.
40 people on staff.
Yeah. And on top of that, reportedly over $75 million spent on 14 different properties all over the world. A French chateau, a chain of islands in the Bahamas.
A chain of islands.
Right. And then there's the famous one. They reported $3 million specifically to blast Hunter S. Thompson's ashes out of a cannon.
Okay, that is a budget item you don't see every day. It really does paint a picture of just no limits financially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A kind of no expenses spared approach.
But beyond just the spending itself, there were also these big legal fights, specifically about his money, weren't there? Between him and TMG.
Yes, exactly. Depp actually sued TMG first. He accused them of, well, basically siphoning off millions, messing up his taxes, not paying them on time, and making loans without his okay. TMG, though, they fired back. They called Depp a spendthrift, basically argued that his own crazy lifestyle was the real reason for his financial problems.
So conflicting stories there.
Very conflicting, and it's really important to, acknowledge that the source presents both sides of that argument. It shows just how messy these high-level financial relationships can get.
Right. And then, of course, the ones everyone heard about, the highly publicized legal battles, especially those defamation trials with his ex-wife Amber Heard. How did those hit his finances and his career?
Well, just the legal fees alone in cases like that are massive. We're talking huge sums, even before you get to any final judgment or settlement.
Yeah.
Now, Depp did ultimately win the 2022 Virginia trial. He was awarded over $10 million in damages, though that was later settled for $1 million that Heard paid. But even with that win, those long, drawn-out legal sagas, they undoubtedly took a huge toll on his finances.
Yeah, the cost must have been immense.
Immense. And beyond just the direct legal costs, there was also the undeniable hit to his career prospects. Getting removed from the Fantastic Beasts franchise, for instance.
Yeah.
That alone meant losing out on potential earnings that could easily have been in the tens of millions.
Right. A major franchise role gone. So, okay, after all that, these huge financial hits, the public setbacks, what does the source say about his future now? Is there, a path back, a revitalization happening?
It seems so, yes. The source does indicate a pretty clear path towards revitalization,
Right.
both professionally and financially. Despite that really challenging period, Johnny Depp seems to be actively, rebuilding things. He's still taking on new projects. He voiced a character in Johnny Puff, Secret Mission. He's directing and producing a film called Modi.
Directed too.
Yeah. And he's also reportedly filming another movie, Day Drinker, with Mark Webb directing. So the work is definitely continuing.
It really seems like his, enduring star power. And just the fact that he is still working, that's key here, isn't it? It suggests that for someone like him, maybe a certain level of financial stability and, career longevity is still possible, even if the days of being the absolute #1 highest paid actor, maybe those are over.
Precisely. I think it really highlights the incredible resilience that an entertainment career can sometimes have, even after going through major public storms and huge financial challenges. It kind of speaks to the lasting power of a personal brand, maybe, and having that dedicated fan base that can weather almost anything.
What an incredible deep dive this has been, just tracking that financial journey of Johnny Depp. From that peak $650 million down to the $150 million estimate. But we've really seen this powerful, kind of unique mix, huge career success, then spending amplified by just how much money there was, complicated financial disputes, those incredibly costly, very public legal fights. It's just a really stark reminder, isn't it, that even that kind of immense wealth, it's not guaranteed. And the swings can be incredibly dramatic, especially for someone constantly in the public eye.
Absolutely. And if you look at the bigger picture implications, Johnny Depp's financial story, it really serves as this powerful illustration. It shows how even vast wealth can just be subject to these huge fluctuations, driven by career ups and downs, personal choices that get magnified by scale, and then that really complex dance between legal outcomes and public perception, which can, either build up a fortune or help tear it down really fast.
So for you, our listener, thinking about this story, it does prompt a really fascinating question, I think. We've talked about the big factors today. Career choices multiplying or shrinking wealth, personal spending getting amplified, legal battles turning into public spectacles, public perception playing a huge role. But beyond those things, what other maybe surprising or perhaps often overlooked elements might contribute to that significant ebb and flow of fortune? For anyone, really, whether they're famous or not, something to think about.